everybody. Welcome back to Tech Sheck. Hope everybody's doing well. Lots of crazy stuff happening here in the US. Things seem to be normalizing everywhere else. Wishing you and your families the best. We thought we'd change it up a little today. You know, I know you've seen me with my big purple Tech Sheck background for the last 50 episodes. We said, let's make it a little more conversational, make it a little more relaxed. So with that, I want to thank all of you for coming back. Thank you for following, sharing, and subscribing. We've been creating some great content, telling some great stories, and we're going to keep going. Today, I have the honor of having with me Mr. Haider Hilaly, the CEO and Managing Director of Ithaca Capital. And we're going to be talking a little bit about what they're doing in the new Pakistan investment environment and how they were actually involved in some of that. And with that, Haider, welcome.
Well, thank you very much for that warm introduction, Farooq. I first of all want to congratulate you on your show getting so much traction. We're very pleased that people all the way out in California are taking an interest in Pakistan. Certainly I've spent the better part of the last 4 years drumming up support, trying to raise a private equity fund for Pakistan. It's just heartening to know that there's also a lot of content out here because the environment in Pakistan, I think, has become a lot more interesting. And a lot has changed with respect particularly to the tech environment. We're all very excited here about our ecosystem and how that's developing. Just briefly about myself, I did not move back to Pakistan because I have lived in New York and London. I actually moved to Pakistan, because I never actually lived in Pakistan. So about 4 years ago now, I moved to Pakistan, having lived in Indonesia and Yemen and the US and England. It's an interesting experience. I was very lucky to have my partner, Saad Faruqi, who was helping me out, helping me getting my feet wet as a guy who's been working on the ground here since '98. Mm-hmm. Of course, my wife, who's been super supportive and has a pretty firm grasp on the social etiquettes of Pakistan, which have been more difficult for me to get accustomed to, I suppose, than somebody who has lived here in the past. So, so main big things that we've been doing is we've been doing deals, and mainly as principals, investing in companies in Pakistan. I think you'll find in the 4 years, we've done about 5 deals, one of which has been, of course, a runaway success, which is the investment that we made, the seed investment that we made into Baikia. Mm-hmm. I recently got the numbers for last week, and, I'm thrilled to see, whenever you see 25+% month-over-month growth, it's really heartening to believe that this company started off, a third of its size a few months ago. And, it's just amazing that we can do hundreds of thousands of rides per day. At something like $1 a day, you're talking about, $1 per ride, you're talking about real money that is flowing through our system at warp speed. And the only way that, that can be handled is technology, and I'm a firm believer that, there has to be some disruption because Pakistan has been sort of left so far behind in the tech world and in terms of its own development compared to the countries that I've lived in, like Indonesia. Something to jumpstart that growth has to come from technology. And I think that to lift 200 million people up at the same time, it has to be something super disruptive. We were, the first disruption, of course, was the mobile phone industry, sure. Which, they had, 4 million landlines, and they said the market was 200,000 mobile phones total. And, you're talking easily north of 150 million connections today. So, you give people something, a product that they want, you let the market do its thing, you let the investment come, and, Pakistan can be just as successful as any other country.
No doubt. And that's a great segue into the next question, which is something, I discovered recently. And as you know, I've had the pleasure of talking to Baikia Actually, an interesting story. I remember when you and I were engaged a few years back, that Baikia did come up in that conversation. And I know Saad was very excited about it back then, as were you. So glad to see that's really moving fast forward. And I've also had a great time building Cadence with Munib, and a phenomenal entrepreneur. So it's good to see all that coming together. On the investment landscape, and that's the big question, and what we're seeing here in the US, obviously, Heather, I know when you came, you probably fell on softer ears, but I think what's happening now with the spawn of Kareem and the successes of the Baikias and the airlifts, you're getting a little more attention of the US investor base. And I know that Dr. Bakir and the State Bank, and of course the current administration, has been very supportive about some new regulatory effect. And I'd love to get your perspective. I know you would have been one of the guys in the background helping guide that. So tell us more. How's that all going to lay out for us here who are interested in investing in that marketplace?
Sure. So first of all, if you check out my LinkedIn profile, I recently wrote an article about how the State Bank and Dr. Bakir had done phenomenal things with respect to helping the real economy of Pakistan during the difficult COVID times. That was one part of it. But in terms of tech, there's some phenomenal changes that have happened, which is basically allowing, first of all, the first and foremost, right, here is the ability of the entrepreneur, the Munib Myers of the world, to own shares at the operating company level as well as at the holding company level offshore. Right. So that's very important. And the second one is the sort of explicit guarantee that foreign investors will be able to make these investments and be able to repatriate their funds, thereby opening up the Pakistani market to foreign investment and ensuring that we, the founders, the seed founders, the entrepreneurs, the people on the ground, get to participate in the success of that company when it, for example, if it's acquired by an Uber or the rest of it, give them ownership at the holding company level. It's absolutely critical to integrate Pakistan into the global tech economy. Right. Before that, it was very much a red tape organization where you had to file hundreds of papers. And, one of the Baikia was actually made repatriable, as it were, under the old regime, right? Okay. And, basically, we were explaining to the government that, look, we have, a $13 million round waiting to come into Pakistan that just needs this guarantee that this is going to be made repatriable, and it's been pushed off for, a long time now. And it was his personal intervention that basically, got the team moving to say, you need to change the local policy. And I think it's safe to say that for tech and investments from abroad, Pakistan is open for business.
Awesome. No, yeah, it's very much the case. And there's been a lot of buzz and excitement, a lot floating around. What we all hope for here is that materially we see this stay in place and continue to grow. It seems to be in the best interest of the country, and there's a lot of initiatives being undertaken. So let's just keep our fingers crossed and hope that it continues.
Yeah, I absolutely think it will. I mean, the man is dedicated to sort of making these things happen and stick, and he's done more in his short tenure than I think anybody has done in the last 70 years. So we're off to a good start. And, this is something that has to happen, for the software development, for the investment to come in terms of employing people and the actual techifying the Pakistani public, right? Yep. And taking them off, from the belief that, the internet, used to be when we first met in Pakistan, the internet consisted of Facebook and WhatsApp. Yeah. They realize now, and by the way, COVID has been a fantastic sort of catalyst for people to move off. Right. And that smartphone, when I was young and I got my first computer, that was like a 2 foot by 2 foot by 1 foot box, right? And now that's that big. It's like a supercomputer in your pocket, connected to a 4G network, which is the best internet that one could have through a cable. In the United States, when I was a kid, is now in everybody's pocket. That
it.
is now converted, and it's well on its way to becoming mainstream, right? And that's because people can't, they have to do all these things online now. They have to open bank accounts online. They have to make payments online. They have to, avoid difficult things like going into the K Electric office to pay their bill. Like all of that stuff has got to move online because you've got to, and that's been a fantastic catalyst to get people to adopt technology. The apps that are coming out there, the banks are doing a better job. Everybody's sort of like, you need to up your game. And quite frankly, so has the state bank, which is awesome. Pretty phenomenal.
That's great. That's wonderful. Well, it's good to hear. And we're going to continue to look forward to see what this results in. I think there's a lot of optimism this year that things are going to pick up more now with COVID subsiding. And I think people being readjusted mentally to digital, as you likely said in Pakistan, which is happening. And with that, so I know we're getting closer to the end of our time. Heather, the last question I had for you is, so, you're, I would say, one of the pioneers. When you and I first met, you were, ready to roll up your sleeves and dig in. What's the advice for the diaspora? Your experience base, I'm sure you're going to be encouraging people to come across, but what is it that we should be coming and looking at and doing, broad stroke?
So broad brushstrokes, Pakistan, so if you want to do, there's two kinds of investments, right? In Pakistan, there's the traditional economy and there's the tech economy, right?
Right.
So in terms of the tech economy, you have to look at gaping holes in the Pakistani space. For me, the largest gaping hole is sort of the digitization of payments and currency.
Got it.
The Pakistani country pretty much is a cash-based economy. And if you're ever going to have any success in making things streamlined, even up to and including eliminating corruption and having streamlined payment systems that don't pass through the hands of people and go directly to where they're supposed to go, that's an area that I think could do with a lot of investment and and let me just say one thing, and I think this is maybe the most important thing I could say, is we have a shortage of experienced talent in Pakistan. Sure. There's a lot of people, but we really do have, it's really tough to find solid people with good experience here. Right. That's my plug for people who are talented and experienced who want to come. They come talk to me, please, first. But that is one area, and then then the other one for the local economy has to be the import substitution play. So Pakistan has some very basic industry, and now it's finally got stable, consistent electricity, which is sort of the building block. And we've got a strong and large, diverse labor force. So we are looking into areas, but we think that there's lots of areas where we can pick up sort of the lower level value add product that obviously we don't necessarily need to make supercomputers or microchips, but our economy is so nascent. Anything that we unnecessarily import, I think that is something that we should be doing and investing in at home.
Awesome. No, that's great. And it's a great, and the best part about it is, Heather, you're not just sitting in some nice place in LA talking about it. You're on the ground doing it. So that's nice. Wonderful to hear. And so with that, we're coming towards the end of our time. First of all, I want to thank you very much for joining us.
It was my pleasure. Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure also. And to our audience out there, look, we continue to learn, share. We want you to help us. And we think there's some really good stories in Pakistan. And I know a lot of people out there, you meet with a lot of skepticism, but there's some really interesting things happening, and COVID has really helped push some things over the fence. So keep following, keep sharing, keep liking us. We love to have you here. And with that, I bid you all Allah Hafiz. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.